So, how do we build this thing? Which of these do you think is the simplest table out of 1, 2, 3, 4? Which do you think is the simplest, least data?
3.
I think 3. I agree. Because you think about what kinds of things do we know about the item, right? Where's my thing? Here we go. So I'm starting to build my schema, right? So at the top, I have the name. What things do I know about items? Come back to your table here. Well, I know it has a unique number, right? I'm going after that first because that's going to be my primary key. So you've got item number, and I'm going to call that the primary key, right? But I also know, what else do I know about it? An item name. Okay, that's it. That's it. Now, some of you thought I need to put more information here, right? Because I think I know other stuff about items, right? For instance, I know stuff about like when it's borrowed and who's got it, okay? But can you see why these things do not really belong to items, right? Because these things change from item to item, right? So these really belong to the loan. That's why they're in the loans table in the first place, okay? So when you're building the items table, that's it, full stop. This is all the data I need. Okay, finished. Okay, now, there's going to be some relationships, right? Where do you think this would be linked to? When you have a look at all the other tables you've got, which do you think is the most logical connection? Loans? Anyone want to go for anything else? Who thinks loans? Hands up. Hands up straight. Okay, Raymond, why? Say that again. Yeah, good. Okay, so, by the way, I just wanted to make you second guess yourself because, I don't want you to say, yes, this is the right one. Mr. Who said so, okay? I want you to know you're like, yes, for this reason. Exactly right. When you think about items and loans, okay, it's an item that's going to be loaned, right? Whereas an item only gets to an employee or to a department through a loan. Does that make sense? Okay. So my next table over will be a loans table. Okay. Right, now, what kinds of things do I know about the loan? What would you put as the very first thing? Think carefully. Say again?
Item number.
Okay, I could go for item number, right? Because you can see that's kind of like when you look at this table, right? That's probably the most, when it jumps out at you, that's the most useful thing for sorting this, okay? But it turns out, even though I will put item number into this table, okay, it's not useful enough. It's useful, but it's not useful enough, okay? Can anyone see the problem? Why shouldn't item number be the first thing I think of?
Because you see all previous lines.
Yeah, because when I go there, right, I'm going to have, look, just here, right? Only in this limited set of data, I've got 6634 coming up twice because it's been borrowed twice. And I assume as time progresses, it's going to get borrowed more times, okay? So item number will not do as a primary key for this table, which makes sense because it's a primary key for another table. So I need to introduce a key, right? There is nothing in this table, which is sufficient to be a primary key. Can you see that, right? So it's not very well designed in that way. So let's introduce one. What do you think we should call it? Loan ID, loan number, whatever. That's my primary key. Okay, I need to put that in. Next, I'm going to put in my item number. And now here's the great thing, right? Because we've introduced an items table, I don't need to say item name again. Because once you know the number, you know the name from a different table. Okay? Right. What else should we put in here? What else should we put? Yeah. Date. Okay. Now there's two dates, aren't there?
Yeah.
There's a borrow date when it went out, and there's a return date. Okay, so I need both. I think that's what they're called. Yeah. Okay. What do you think? Am I finished? Is that enough? Okay, now I've got some choices here, right? Thinking back, I'm going to have, right, an loans table, employees table, item table, department table. So when I think about, okay, where has this item gone, right? I can choose either employees or department. Now, which one is a better option? Yeah.
I'll say department because it says in the question, like before, each department has a single supervisor who borrows items on behalf of employees in that department.
Okay.
So
Yep.
it can be on behalf of an employee, but it's for the whole.
Yeah. Okay. Now that's true. That's true. You've got this department, which is sort of the, it's sort of the, what's the word I'm looking for? It's the agent that's actually making the borrowing happen. Partly because the department's attached to a supervisor. Okay. I'm going to suggest though, probably in this question, especially because it says on behalf of employees, right? And also that in this table below, right? You can see that, let me think if there's an example. Yeah, here we go. In menswear, for instance, okay? These two items get both borrowed by the same department, okay? But the table itself distinguishes between the different people that have actually, within that department, have got the item, okay? Now, can anyone give me maybe a practical reason why it might be helpful to have the employee as the person who's grabbed the item, have that listed there, rather than the entire department? Can anyone give me a practical reason? So, I mean, if the whole department has got it, and that's all I need to know, isn't that sufficient? Yeah.
We know who exactly to show something.
Bingo. Okay, so put yourself in the position of the inventory keeper, right? And you're like, where's my laptop? Okay, you got to go hunt it down, right? If a department, how many employees does a department have? Dunno, right? It could be 5, it could be 10, it could be 50, right? I don't want to have to search through 50 people and have to ask around that kind of thing. I want to be able to go straight to them, right? Probably the supervisor ID might be important in case that person's not around. This will be the go-to person. But I reckon employee is probably the best option there. Okay, even though you could probably go either way. That's not a critical error, by the way. If you put supervisor here, department here, okay, you're still getting the general idea. You still have the destination for where this item is gone, okay? But probably employees a more specific kind of person. Okay. Now, are we done? What do we got to put onto this table? A couple of things are missing. Okay, first is there's a relationship, right? We said we went from items to loans because there was a relationship. So when I've got this sort of filled out, I've got item number to item number, right? So when you draw this line, this becomes a foreign key. Yes? Now, question, what kind of relationship is this? You can be one-to-one, one-to-many, or many-to-many. What kind is it? One-to-many. Who thinks one-to-many? 2 people. 3 people? 4 people? 3.5 people? Not sure. Okay, hands down. All right. If you don't think it's one-to-many, who thinks it's one-to-one? No one thinks it's one-to-one. Okay, that's fine. It's not. Who thinks it's many-to-many? Okay, so if you didn't raise your hand, you're confused. Yes? Okay, that's fine. That's all right. It's one-to-many. One-to-many is right. Now the question is why? How can I know it's one-to-many? What's the way that I test whether something is one-to-one, blah, blah, blah? Like, how do I know which relationship it is?
The same number appears once you appear more than once on the loans.
Okay. Say that again, Pox, slowly so everyone hears that.
The same item number can
Yep.
appear more than once in the loans table, but it only appears once in the items table.
Ah, okay, good. So let's think about it. I'll phrase it another way, right? How many items, right, are loaned? In a single loan, you're just going to have one of them, right? Each loan, just once, okay? But how many times can an item get loaned? Many, many different times. As you can see here, right? It just gets reloaned and reloaned and reloaned, okay? So that's why you're going to put, where's my one-to-many? It's a bit small, sorry. But there's a 1 here and a many here. One item gets loaned many times. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, now I'm almost done with this table. There's something that needs to be changed. There's a field that has a problem. Can anyone see it? Yeah.
Employee.
Yeah, that's right. Employee is kind of a bogus name for a field, right? In fact, it's the name of the table. So what should the field be called?
ID.
Right. Now that also implies every time you see like number or ID, more or less, that's always going to be a key of some kind. Is it a primary key? Is it a primary key? No, because I've already got one, right? It's the key for some other table, right? So it's a foreign key. And that tells you the next thing that you're going to go to. Okay, so I'm running out of space here, but you can probably just go across your page. I'm going to draw this down, and it's going to go somewhere else. Okay, so my next table is,
Employee.
if it's the employee, yeah, okay. I'm following, yes. I'm going to do the employee table. High five, Puck. No, well done. That's okay. I'm awake. I'm awake. Right. We already know what its primary key will be. It's the employee ID. And in fact, the rest of this table is really easy to build, right? Because they told you what's in it, right? The employee table includes blah 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 blah. Okay. So let's fill that out. I've got that, which is the primary key. I've got the first name. And the last name. Note, by the way, I mentioned this when I did the review for the last exam as well, that these are all, there are no spaces or anything like that. That's why the capital letters, they delineate different words. Okay, is that it? Is that the employee table? I mean, that's all it says in the question that I need, right? The employee table includes those attributes. Okay, yeah, Leo.
We need to have which department.
Good. So we already know that I'm going to have extra fields in here to connect this to my fourth and final table, right? And we pick departments, okay? So if I have departments over here, sorry, that's a D. I'm going to have a department ID in here, right? Department ID. So you can use DEPT as a abbreviation for that. And obviously, because it's an ID, again, it'll be a key, but not the key of this table, key of another one, right? Okay, now I think that's probably enough for the employee table, because these ones are mandated, and this one is implied. Okay, so. Okay, now what kind of relationship do I have here? From loans to employees. Loans to employees. Again, it's one-to-many. One-to-many is, by and large, the most common one, okay? Now, which one's one and which one's many?
The top one's one, many because employee can have many left.
Right, okay, so you got one on the employees table, right? Because one employee can borrow lots of different things, I assume, okay? But every single loan, a loan is not to multiple different people, okay? So a loan has just one employee attached to it. Okay, I'm almost finished, we're almost there, right? The department table. What do we got? Well, obviously I have to have a department ID. That's going to be my primary key. What else?
Supervisor.
Okay, good. So I need the supervisor. This is where they come in, since I don't have a whole table devoted to them, okay? So I don't need to call that a foreign key because I don't have another table that it's going to refer to, okay? Anything else? Yeah.
Department name, if that's not department name.
Good, yes. Just to increase the, what's the word I'm looking for? Increase the efficiency of this and make things smaller, okay? So instead of writing ladies wear or men's wear, which is quite a long thing, right? Then you could just call it LM or MW, whatever, okay? And then the full name, you can have it separately, and then you can adjust it as need be. There's your table, okay? And here's our relationship here. What kind of relationship is it? One to many, again, right? Which way? Which way?
Many employees to one department.
Good. 1. 4 marks. Okay. Now, where did we have troubles? If you had a supervisor table, you immediately had some troubles, okay? Because the way that you arranged your fields for that table would have been very confusing. If you missed out some data, especially data that was actually mandated in the question, you lost some marks. If you didn't do this, if you didn't get all the relationships in the right order, that was problematic because that's crucial. That's understanding the way that objects relate to each other, right? And then apart from that, so long as it was laid out in a logical way. Some people had their relationships like all overlapping, like a terrible spider's web. And eventually I read it, but it's just hard. Don't do that to people, okay?
Don't do that to me.